Okay. All right, guys. Oh, thank you. All right, thanks. Stoked to be here. My name's Scott Mott. I'm actually from Riverside, California. So that's nice. That's nice because it's basically the armpit of Southern California. So, but moving to LA soon. Really stoked for that. But I work for a company called SendGrid. Who's heard of SendGrid? All right, so a decent amount. For those of you who haven't, we're basically like an email API in the cloud. We make it super simple to send and receive email. If you want to talk more about that, we can, but that's not why I'm here. So I'm here to tell you about why passwords suck. Like, yes, exactly. Like, I hate passwords. Just the other day, our HR department sent us some new app. They're always sending us crap. Like, here you go. Go sign up for this. And I had to fill out. It was like 8 characters. Had to be 8 characters. It was like it needed like a number. It needed an asterisk. It needed like something else and like my right arm. So it's just like it's ridiculous, right? Like you can't choose what you want to do. So let's just go over why passwords suck really quickly, and then we'll get into. I'm basically going to tell you about something that I've implemented. It's an experiment, but it's a working experiment, so we'll see some live code. And it's really a contrarian viewpoint, but I think it's got some good use cases. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts as well afterwards, and we'll kind of go through it together. So first of all, passwords are hard to remember. We know that, especially nowadays. There's a huge amount of websites. They have different ways you have to sign up. So how are you going to remember those passwords? You might use some other tool, but if you're doing things really, really right, you're using a different password every time. So you're either saving those in a tool or you're trying to remember all those passwords, which is just ridiculous, right, for us as humans. And this tends to encourage password reuse. So same password is easier. It's easier to remember. So you say, okay, I'll go to this website. I'll reuse the same password. I'll go to this website, reuse the same password. And that introduces a security issue. And that introduces it for us as developers because humans, that's what they want to do. Like they don't want to manage passwords. Like we might in this room to some degree, like use one password, things like that. Most people don't. So we just want to keep that in mind. They never expire. This is just by default. There's some websites you'll go to where they actually expire, but that's like a pain in the ass. Like you go back to the website 6 months later and they're like, you need to change your password now. And you're like, oh my gosh, just let me in, you know? So, but they never expire, which security-wise is not such a good thing. It would be nice if we could have expiration built in to authentication. And then typing long passwords nowadays. So we've got these little guys, and I spend most of my time on it. And typing a long password, if you have a good secure password, is a real pain, especially maybe you're driving. Like we all kind of tend to do that, and you're trying to log in. You know? So even with modern technology, passwords, like they're getting even worse. So to the part about security, the people are trying to solve the problem that passwords are hard to remember. They're all these things, and so people have bad passwords. And how can we have security so that they don't get brute force attacked and get in, things like that, so that hackers don't get in and cause a mess. And the approach that most are taking is two-factor auth. So who's heard of two-factor auth? Okay, nice. Yeah, this room's gonna know. For those of you who haven't, just to quickly go over it, it's basically still your email and password or your username and password, log in, and then it's this second step where it sends you a short code, usually via SMS, but sometimes they have like their own apps that you install on your device and it sends that to you, or sometimes these like little dongle things you carry around, banks do that sort of thing. And then you enter that short code and you log in. So it's this two-part, this two-step auth. Look at that for a little bit and you still have the same problems. You still have a password. So it's still hard to remember that password, right, for most people. And most people don't do two-part auth. People in this room probably do. I do. It's a good thing to do, but most don't. You still have the hard to remember password because it's still there. That's still encouraging reuse of that password. Now you've got built-in expiration, which is great because that SMS, it's always different. So that's automatic expiration. Like, okay, nice bonus. That's going to be really hard to actually get your hands on and hack into a site with. But you still got a long password. So if you're still in the car, you're still typing this long password. And then now you've got a new problem. You got to wait for that short code. This isn't too bad of a problem. Those short codes usually arrive pretty quickly. Like if it's via SMS or if it's even on that app or that dongle, you get that short code really quickly. But there is kind of a new problem here doing two-part auth. And then one of the biggest problems is it's really hard to set up. So it's hard for the user to set up because they've got to go and like sign up for this process and that sort of thing. You've got to put them into that. And a lot of people probably won't really want to do that. And then it's really tough for the developer. Even with a new app, I would say, and you know what you're doing, it's probably going to take you probably 2 days to implement two-part auth and do it kind of right? And if you've got an app that's got a lot of people, which is probably why you want to do two-part auth, because you don't want people, you don't want them messing up their passwords, you're looking at maybe 2 weeks of development time, something like that, right? So that's time that you could be putting towards your product, assuming there's maybe a different approach. So the problem is the password. Like all those things I described, except for those new, like the delay waiting for the shortcode and the hard to set up, all those other problems are still the password. Like the password's still there. We added this other layer, but we still have the problem with the password. So I think we should be thinking about like how could we remove the password? And people are working on this. Like I was at South by Southwest, and they've got someone had like an armband that you wear, and it measured your heartbeat, and that was like an authentication mechanism, which is kind of crazy, but like potentially awesome, right? And thumbprints. So there's like approaches that people are taking, but these are all very like proprietary approaches. They're very hard to implement. And they're not using protocols that we already use on the web. They're really, really common. So I've made something called HandshakeJS. It's up on GitHub, and it's, like I said, it's an experiment, but it's a working experiment. It's something you can implement. You can try it out. The premise of it is, back to that two-part auth, the premise of it is two-part auth's got this second part, which is kind of good. And it's like, flip it around. Let's start with that shortcode. So like, let's cut out the password and start with that shortcode, because that's what we're using to make passwords better. Like there's this problem with this password, so let's do two-part auth. Well, let's just get rid of the actual password part and do that second part of the two-part auth.
Second part auth.
Yes, yeah, second part auth. Maybe that's what it should be called, actually. That's good. So the way HandshakeJS works, okay, so I built this little app called Floss Today. I was really bad at flossing. So I built a little app. It sends me an email every day, and it says, did you floss today? And if I don't reply yes, it nags me and sends me another email an hour later, and then another email, right? And so it's a very simple app. It was like implemented in an afternoon, you know, and it got me flossing, which is great. But twice a year, I got to log in because the time changes, right? And I want it to come to me at 8 in the morning. I got to log in and change that because I didn't implement, you know, all the craziness of dealing with the time change and the time zones. So twice a month, I want to log in and change that. Or maybe I'm waking up later and I'm like, okay, I'll change it to 10 a.m. I didn't want a full authentication mechanism. So instead, I implemented this. You guys can probably still see in the back. You just put in your email and you say request login. And then that changes to confirm login. And so this is an example on your phone. And you get emailed a shortcode. And then you just drop that shortcode in, confirm login, and like you're done. You're logged in, right? So the advantage there is like that's your password. Your password comes to your email. It's using a protocol that already exists. It works kind of well on the phone now because most people get their notifications just dropping down. And like that's it. So like that's the basics of this. So there's nothing like crazy. It was pretty easy to implement. It's all built in Nodejs, but like the bonuses are now there's nothing to remember. There's no password. It's gone. There's zero chance to reuse a password because like you can't use that password on this site that you use on some other site, and there be, you know, maybe some hacker gets into a site because it was plain text and is able to get into all your other sites because you use the same password. Like there's zero chance for that now. You're not using the password, you can't reuse it. There's built-in expiration because these shortcodes change, and you've got to get the shortcode in 2 minutes, and you can adjust that value as well. There's an environment variable you can adjust. Like if you want to give them only 30 seconds, if you want to give them 10 minutes, an hour. There's no long passwords to type. It's like 4 letters, but you can also customize via an environment variable. So if you want like 10 letters, you could do that. Now you've got that delay. So you've got to wait for that email to arrive, right? So that could be a while. I'm using SendGrid under the hood, so it gets there really fast. but you could be, but the way it's implemented open, right? So I'm using SendGrid's SMTP API, but you can use whatever email server you want to. And it's really easy to set up. Like I'm going to show you here in a bit, but it's literally like you drop in some JavaScript, and then you do a little bit on your server side. You have to do something on your server side to set those sessions, and then it works, and your authentication is built. So you're talking like 30 minutes instead. So before we get to the code real quick, well, let me show you the code. So let's actually see it. So here's Floss Today, but let's not go to that. Let's go and actually, so this is the script you drop in. So you drop in this here. So to your JS file, you get an app name that you sign up with. So you go sign up for that at sign up here. So let's do js.la, and I'll do my name. And even this part is open source. So you can host the server in the middle that's sending these shortcodes if you want to, but I've got one conveniently set up, and it's on an unlimited SendGrid account. So until if a ton of people use it, then I might have to like police it, but basically you're good. So you get a salt back. So this is like your secret. You have to remember this salt. That's how we're going to kind of do the authentication a little bit. And so let's go and then you drop in this here. So I've got an example one. So let's just go to that. I've got a Node.js one. There's examples in Ruby as well, and then plans to implement in kind of as many languages as possible. But so let's clone that.
Good font size.
Yeah, is that big enough? Okay.
I like it.
All right, good. And let's go in there. Let's just run install real fast. If I can type. Okay, while that's running. Okay, so inside this, that's going to be too hard to see like that. Okay, so there's a Node library with it, as well as a Ruby library, to make this kind of salting mechanism even easier. So basically, that's where I would put my salt. And I've got it set up as an environment variable. I just want to show you real fast, and then we'll actually configure it. And then if we come down to HandshakeJS, down here, there's a validate function built on top of that to make it really easy. So basically, you're setting up a route called /login_success. You can rename this as well, but that's what it is by default. So that'll make an AJAX request to set the session. I'll show you that in a little bit. But validate by email, and then if it's correct, right now I'm just setting the session to the user, like the user session to the email. You could do your own like session token as well, and then redirect and log in. So this has got a README with it just to make it a little bit easier. But so we've cloned that. We're going to set our salt here. Okay, so .env. And where was our? Okay, so here was our salt. And feel free to ask questions while I'm doing this. But let's also get our view out, and I think this is under index. And then we do have to, so this is our script tag being dropped in. This is in Jade right now. We need to change our app name. So you get that salt and your app name that you sign up with, and that's your unique item. But you, like I said, you can host that as well yourself. And you can see it's looking for, on a login confirm event, post to that AJAX request login success and pass that email, and an identity hash that gets passed back that's unique and secure. Okay, and so let's run that. And let's get crazy and give you guys access. So if you want to go on your machine right now, you can go to mot.ngrok.com. It's kind of small. And it's mot.ngrok.com. So that's where you'll want to go. Okay, and the first thing we'll do, it might be a little slow because it's going through that. Try to go to dashboard. Make sure I'm not logged in right now. Okay, yeah, so I'm not. Trying to go to dashboard. All right, let's send myself the request. Okay, and yeah. I don't have too many in there right now. See if it came up on my phone. Yeah, that's true. Okay, 3075. So let's just give a wrong one right now. The UX sucks on this thing right now.
Alert for the win.
Yep. So confirm login. All right, there. Now I'm in my dashboard, right? So I wasn't able to go into my dashboard before, and now I did. And I feel like that's pretty easy. And so that's it. That's the basics. So in addition, so it's open source. I want to add other delivery methods. So you could do SMS. You could have like your own app that you install. You could do phone calls, and you could even maybe layer those. So if you want like super nuclear security, you could try to log in somewhere with your email, and that phones some other person, like your mom, and she's like, all right, yeah, your password to get into Floss Today is this, right? Like that's possible. That's possible with this kind of implementation. So I think it's useful. So we can talk about it. There's some real weaknesses with this. It's contrarian, but there's some real strengths. I think it's great for sites you never log into, like student loan site or DMV. Like you don't want to freaking, yeah, it's like once or twice a year. Mobile-based, you don't have to type a long password, especially maybe if you took someone's phone number instead as SMS. They type in their phone number. That's kind of a nice thing to have for like a mobile app. And then hackathons, like just getting people signed up quickly, right? So, because basically you're eliminating your forgot password, your sign up, and your login. Like it's all just one thing. So that's it, guys. That's HandshakeJS. So thank you. So do we have time for questions? Okay, so go for it.
So, question A, this is awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Question mark?
This is awesome. The question is about authenticating. So I'm really interested in how to avoid robot traffic while allowing humans to just do whatever they want.
Okay, yes.
So I feel like you could just use this with either Chrome notifications or Safari notifications.
Interesting.
Outside of even email.
That's cool. Okay, yeah, I haven't even thought of that. So like thinking about it right now, that sounds possible. So I would say like help me build it. Yeah. Yeah, like exactly. Like I want this to be it's like an environment. It's like that's an awesome idea. So and I've talked to friends about this and no one's thought of that. So that's rad. Oh, so this is awesome, just handshake in general. Oh, okay. Yeah.
We already know it's awesome.
Yeah, but the idea was that you can build on top of this and like you can do notifications, like you can sign in repeat it. Or
So if you just want to delineate between humans and robots,
okay.
Because you don't want to be like hacked, and you don't want to deal with dealing with, because you could do IP-based blocking, like for security, just so that only humans can use your app. You could build on top of this and have it, instead of sending an email, send like a Chrome notification, or Safari supports the system notifications.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So.
Computer couldn't read that, I don't think.
Yeah, it'd be really tough. So the idea is that you can basically, like, to keep robots out of your system to help with that, so they can't like automate your system and that sort of thing, is you could use Chrome notifications. You could use notifications like even in Apple, basically. Yeah, push notifications, and that would be very tough for robots to really get at, because visually it's just a human seeing it. Right. So yeah, that's good. So the question is, how do you deal with the fact that email itself is not really secure? So I would argue that it's more secure than trusting it to a bunch of sites, your password. And I would say, I feel like Gmail is more secure and Yahoo is more secure than most sites. And then I would recommend do two-part auth on your email. Like, everything lives in your email. Your email is so huge and important. Yeah. So the way to deal with that is definitely do two-part auth, and, who knows in the future, three-part auth, thumbprint, that sort of thing.
You only have to remember one password.
Exactly, and then he said that basically you only have to remember one password, your email password, which is a huge advantage, yeah, and nice for humans.
Most passwords have password reset through email anyway.
That's true. Most passwords have password reset through email anyway, so it's kind of like if someone's in your email, they're already getting in there. And at least with this, they have to be in your email at that exact time, right? Because these expire. Question?
I was just thinking, if somebody has your device
mm-hmm.
and they're trying to log in, and it's like that, then that's kind of not exactly secure, because then they get the notification. If somebody has your device, say it's like going through, SMS, it's going to pop up. And so I guess, if somebody has control of your device, then I guess you're kind of screwed anyways. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if someone has control of your device, you're pretty much screwed anyways.
Should have set a PIN code, bro.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's more of a comment than a question.
Yeah.
When they always talk about security and not using the same password everywhere, I find it interesting that everyone wants to just use your email as your username.
Yes, that's true.
If everyone just had a different username everywhere, even if we had the same password, it'd be a lot harder to match up.
Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of.
So the username is what's following us around the world, not the password.
Yeah, so the thought is that the username, which is really like an email, because most sites require email for your username, kind of follows us around. So yeah, I would actually say that then it's kind of both, and I haven't thought about that, but that's kind of interesting. It makes me think of like, this is kind of a crazy app, but Whisper, you don't really have a username, but it's kind of then tied to your phone. Like you can change your username whenever you want on Whisper. I don't know. I guess that's something to think about and pursue. Like that's kind of a nugget, maybe of a good idea. But you still need some way to notify people, right? Apps need to communicate with people, and email's been the popular thing because it was before there was like really text messages and phones that were smart. So email's been the way. But like maybe you know Chrome notices things like that. Maybe that would move more towards the future and remove usernames. So that's a good thought.
Last week, Gmail was down for a couple hours, along with Gmail.
Yes.
Like the whole world wouldn't be able to log into their Facebook.
Right. And sometimes Gmail gets backed up too. Like SendGrid, we work closely with Gmail and Yahoo. We've been around for a long time doing this before anyone. So we see things in traffic and talk to them, and like they'll be backed up sometimes for 20 minutes. So you're just not getting emails for 20 minutes. So yeah.
I had a big comment on yours about usernames. I think you could say that if you wanted to add an extra layer of startup setup to Handshake, you need to alias an email address as a username, and then you can create unique usernames everywhere. And so that does add a layer of complexity. But I was actually going to ask. You mentioned school loan sites, and the one I log into all the time, they require me to recognize a picture.
Okay. Yes.
So I don't know how you feel about that. How like maybe giving the user a multiple choice question after the short code or something like that, to where like, oh, it's the same answer everywhere, and maybe I could upload my own photo, and I know, or I could upload 4 photos, and I always know that I picked this particular photo as my authentication method. Yeah.
So the question is like, should you have images as kind of a second part off to this, and kind of a suggestion. And I would say like, yeah, that could be cool. Definitely for stuff where you have to be a little more secure. So, and I think actually there's a potential even as like, I think authentication will change a lot in the future. I like this because it's built on open protocols, but I mean maybe even like drawing a picture to authenticate. There's potential for lots of different ideas. So yeah, something like that could be cool. So yeah, Thumbprints is probably one of the really good ones, but it takes proprietary hardware and software right now. Let's go over on this side.
The thing about Thumbprints really fast is that it's actually recommended to use those for usernames more than passwords.
Okay.
Because you always carry them with you, and you only have 10 of them.
Okay.
At some point, you're going to run out, and then people will just have your password without your knowledge. So Thumbprints, like you mentioned, the device for the pulse, I would see those more as usernames than passwords.
Interesting. So the thought is that Thumbprints and like even Pulse stuff that is recognizing your data would be seen more as like a username, and that's a really interesting thought.
What about your voice?
Sorry?
About your voice, like
Yes.
Nodejs
Yeah, voice.
right now, it can only recognize your own voice when you talk to it.
Right. So I think like those kind of things, I'd like to see us move towards those. But yeah, they're very proprietary. But I think like if people start building that stuff, it'd be great. Let's do over here.
So there's an old JavaScript technique of using a bookmarklet, and the bookmarklet you enter in your master password that you use for everything, and it does like a SHA-2 hash on your password and your salt and the domain name of the site. So you're using with every site a different hashed password. There's no communications loop because you've got the bookmarklet in your thing, and you only remember the one password. So the only sort of disadvantage that I see in your use case is maybe on some mobile apps you don't have the ability to use a bookmarklet, and those are long hashes. But did you consider look at that type of approach, or?
So I haven't really like a bookmarklet approach. like, are you kind of referring to, so he's talking about bookmarklets and the way they'd automatically SHA a password and basically every password would then be different. That's storing that then in your browser, right? Where is it storing that data?
You're calculating it fresh every time. I mean, it's like you're always giving your same master password. It combines your master password with the domain of the site you're logging into.
Okay, yes.
The TLD, the top two maybe. And so each password sees a different unique, I mean, each website is in a unique hash and they can't reverse it out.
Right, so that's very similar to like LastPass or 1Password.
Yeah,
right, and I mean, I use LastPass and I used 1Password before that. And I think that's good too. I think a lot of humans don't want to do that. It's kind of difficult for them, right? They have to install software. They don't know what shawing is. Like they don't like, you know, and salting and stuff. They're like, what is shawing? Yeah, it's not even cryptography. So I think that stuff is good, but it's not very friendly to humans. So that's why I didn't go down that road. And then you've also got to store that data somewhere, right? You have to sync it up somewhere. So there is the possibility that LastPass gets hacked and like your data does get out in the open, but you know.
No, but again, there's no database of passwords.
Okay.
Every time you log in, it recalculates. So it's not saving a bunch of.
But it has to remember your password somehow to log back in, correct?
No, you type in the password. You type in your password,
Mm-hmm.
and it intercepts it.
Okay.
Bookmarklet combines your password with the domain name and sends that as your password.
Okay.
So you're
Okay.
typing a master password on the fly, making the password.
So the salt is the domain in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
We got-
Okay. Interesting.
we got time for one more.
All right. One more question. Carla?
So the important part about two-factor is really that the two factors is something that you know and something you have, right? Like
Yes.
You have your phone, you know something. Have you thought about doing something with HandshakeJS where maybe you send an email with some token that expires as well as the SMS? So now, if I have your email, I still need your phone. Or if I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll need access to your email, but even if I get it, you still win your points about I have to have your email at that moment.
Yes. So definitely. So he's suggesting that you could send an email and an SMS. So you'd have to basically have both at the same moment to authenticate.
The part
And
that freaks me out is like if
yeah.
you're replacing two-factor with the good parts of two-factor,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually losing the second factor.
Yeah, you definitely are. Yes. You're definitely trading it, but I think you're trading it for the better part of two-factor. But I would like this to, like I kind of mentioned before, where you could put layers on top of this, so that you could like phone your mom and like you phone a friend, or I don't know what the idea is, or have a picture. But yeah, that's good. Like there's kind of some problems there. So.
But it sends you a letter in the mail.
Yeah, letter in the mail. You can do that with Lobs API. Lobs API, you can send a letter in the mail.
It's obnoxiously long to log in that no one wants that.
You gotta really.
That would be a really good way to troll this idea. Like make a blog post about using Lobs API to send on top. Yeah, that would be really good.
Amazon will just deliver it by drone.
Yeah, there you go.
That wasn't fresh.
All right, I think we're good, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.